Good evening, and welcome to the Impact Show. I'm your host, Samuel I Can Win and Kim Win, and I'm looking forward to tonight's show. I hope you're doing well. Hope you have been developing under the lockdown, under the current climate. I know I have, reading more books, learning more, and adding value to other people. So, just to get us started with tonight's show, if you are new on the live show, you've never been on the Impact Show before, just write in the comments new, write in the chat new, NEW. And if you've been here before, just write the word before, BEFORE. I'm here and I've been here before. So just let us know who you are. If you're tuning in for the absolute first time, or if you've been here before, I'm very, very interested in finding out. As I mentioned, I'm Samuel I Can Win and Kim Win. I usually, not under the lockdown circumstances though, I usually host a networking event in London, in Canary Wharf, where we get over 100 attendees every single month. And side by side with that, I've been invested in property. I've been interested in property since about 2000 and early 2000s, let's say 2002. Got a little bit active in 2005, got more active each and every year, and till today still helping people on their journey as well. So I coach people. Great to see you, Mrs. I Can Win, been here before, absolutely amazing. See Yogesh's comment in the chat. Hello, hi Yogesh, hope you're doing well, and everyone else who is joining us on the show today. So just quickly before we get into the show today, I want to share a quick disclaimer and also the reason why we have the show. So let's start with why we have the show. The reason we have the Impact Show, we started the strategy in the storm the moment the lockdown started. And basically what happened is I had a number of people reach out to me, coaching clients, people that were friends and people that weren't even really friends, people that just had heard about me in the property space and said, Samuel, look, I know you are a property strategist. I know you help people on their property journey. We're going through certain things. We don't know how to solve certain predicaments in our current portfolio with regards to what's going on with the lockdown, etc., self-isolation, all of that stuff. So could you help us? And what I realized is, like most people realize, I can't help everybody in the standard format that I had to help people before, which was people booking calls with me having a call, etc. So what me and my team decided to do was start this show. And what happens on this show is we allow a number of people to phone in, and as they phone in, the team basically route the calls to me, and basically we help them to strategize through this particular storm. We've had a number of people call in over the number of weeks we've been doing this. I think this is like week 7 or week 8 that we've been running this show, and it's been extremely helpful. Our aim is to basically try and run the show as often as possible. So once a week is the current format, and I hope it's been of value to you if you're someone who has been on the stream before. Now, we had a few technical issues earlier on. Just thought I'd give a shout out to the technical issues because, again, like I said on one of my Facebook live videos that I tried to record earlier on today, you can't hold a good man down. And earlier on, we was pushing a Facebook live talking about social distancing 101, and I was basically breaking down my personal view on what social distancing really is. And yeah, I think Facebook just cut us off, but yeah, let's not go into that too deep. We ended up still recording the video, and the video will go out probably later on tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to go into our disclaimer, and then straight after that we're going to jump straight into the value. We're going to turn the call on, we're going to turn the phone system on, and basically jump straight into the value. So as a disclaimer, what I want to share, that all the information provided and results given are exemplary, okay? And each person's results may vary or differ. Results are based on consistent strategies being used consistently, okay? And we advise that you always seek legal and financial advice from a qualified professional if you're going to be doing some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. Now, obviously, we have the great advantage of experience in terms of the things we have already done in property. So when we go into a deal, we got that little bit of confidence that you might not have if you're absolutely brand new and you're starting your property journey, but that's okay. We're here to help you, okay? So if you guys have specific questions, you're looking for specific answers, you want to strategize, let us know and we will help you. Now, also, the chatbots can be used to ask questions. One of the reasons why we do encourage people to use the phone line, which we will be opening any second now, is very simple. And it's just because when you type a message, when you text a message, it's not always as coherent and as easily understood as when you actually speak a message. So what we do is we ask you to basically call in, and through means of the ability of you guys calling in, we get to a position where we can basically clearly understand what your situation is, what your scenario is, and then we can help you strategize. So that's what we're intending to do with you tonight. Now, before we go into the whole hoopla, before we get into all of the questions, the people calling, etc., etc., the phone lines are now open. They're actually open now. So the number's not just showing for you, but they're actually open now. And you can see the number on the banner above. Okay, so you can call in with that number 0330-606-0403. And when you call in, they're going to ask you for an access code. The access code is there also, which is 695922. And Yogesh has just thrown a comment in the chat saying highly recommend calling, guys. He highly recommends that people call in. Should I go that deep? I'll probably say I highly recommend you call in as well if you want value. Yogesh has also written got loads of value last time, and I think Yogesh has actually called in probably 3 or 4 times over the period of time that we've actually been running the show. So again, a shout out to you, Yogesh, and thank you for taking advantage of the facility. The facility is there for people. So guys, you know what we want to do is we want to add value to you. That's why we do what we do. This isn't just about, you know, having a time where we're here and we're just saying to you, yeah guys, you can call. This is actually about us helping you move forward in your property journey. So as I said, numbers up there, utilize the number, access codes up there, utilize access code, call in if you have anything you want to ask specifically about your own property journey that you'd like someone else to kind of give you some insight into. But side by side with that, if you got general questions, if you just got a general question about property, you've been thinking about property, but certain things have held you back, you're not sure if now's the time to basically invest because of the current climate, or you think maybe now is the best time to actually invest, but you're not sure how to raise funds or anything, whatever you may be challenged by in your property journey, feel free to call in and we can talk about that. Now, to get us started in tonight's show, I want to speak about something in particular, okay? And the thing I really wanted to speak about is something I thought was really, really interesting, okay? And this is just an article that I recently came across, okay? And when I came across this article, this was actually produced today by The Guardian. Came across this article and I thought, you know what? You don't say, okay? And this is the funniest thing about this world, okay? You know, if you rely on common news, I can guarantee you one thing: you're probably going to be a week behind, okay? If you rely on common news, if you rely on the mainstream media's news, you are probably going to be a week behind the reality of what is going on. And when I say that, I'm being funny, I'm being jovial with you, okay? Because you're probably not really going to be a week behind. You're probably going to be about 6 weeks behind. But I'm just being jovial. But I want you to understand this concept, okay? Because many people do not understand this concept. Many people think following mainstream media is how you stay up to date. But what they don't realize is a lot of the time following mainstream media is how you do not stay up to date. So you guys should see this on the screen right now. If you see it on the screen, you know, just send a yes in the chat so I know that you can see it. Now, this particular article, okay, this article came out today. It was written by a reporter, I believe Zoe Woods. And basically, this article went into some very interesting information. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go into the article because you can just Google and find the article for yourself and get some understanding, okay? So Zoe Wood wrote in this. This is Friday, the 22nd of May today. She wrote the headline. Let me just use the headline and then the few sub headlines and then share with you what was interesting. It said food and drink industry, okay? This is the as you can see at the top, it's the business, economics, banking, money markets. It's kind of section in the Guardian newspaper. It says more than 30,000 pubs and restaurants may not reopen after lockdown. It goes on to say coronavirus crisis could prove final straw for some businesses in hospitality sector. Poll finds. Okay, so they've done some basic statistics, and those of you who know me know that, you know, my primary first and second degrees, my first undergraduate degree and my first master's that I studied are in statistics. So I'm into statistics, into numbers, into probabilities, into working all of that stuff out, projections, etc. So they say here on the subheading, coronavirus crisis could provide final straw for some businesses in hospitality sector, poll finds. It goes on to say coronavirus latest updates, which is a link you can go through and also see all our coronavirus coverage. Now, the reason why for me this was extremely interesting, this article, I first saw this article in a group that I'm a part of, a wealth group, and basically it was shared in that group. I read the article and I thought, this is so funny. And the reason I thought it was funny, and guys, look, I'm going to be totally honest with you. This, me showing this and me talking about this is not about this article. Okay, it's not about this article. It's about the thing I paraphrased a moment ago. It's about the simple fact that people following mainstream media news, if they're interested in investing in property, okay, that's not going to help you. Okay, it's all it's going to do is keep you out of the loop. Okay, now most people think general conventional news keeps you in the loop. Okay, but if you know what you're doing, I can guarantee you that mainstream media news keeps you actually out of the loop. All right, if you know what you're doing. And what do I mean by that? This is what I mean by that. I was invited to be on a panel as a property investor 4.5 weeks ago. It's about a month ago now, middle of April. Okay. And when I was invited to be on that panel, one of the things that was spoken about by an accountant, there was an accountant on the panel, and the accountant started to speak about specific grants. Okay. And we might talk about the bounce back loan in a little bit as well, because I've got a lot of people talking to me about the bounce back loan right now in terms of property and, what to do. Should I take it? Should I not take it? It's free money. First year, 0% interest, year 2, 6% interest, and all the way up to year 6, 6% interest. It's free money. I'll say that again, because that's the general notion a lot of people have. So we'll talk about bounce back loans in a minute. But before we talk about the bounce back loan, I want to really talk about this article. I want to talk about why this, in my opinion, is just so interesting. So 4.5 weeks ago, an accountant on the same panel as myself, and this accountant is not a property specialist, not into property necessarily. And again, just for context, the panel was not about property. The panel was about investment and business owners structuring their business appropriately and accordingly in the current climate. Okay, so again, they're the kind of things I'm into. I'm into helping people and supporting people in the current climate to move forward. So nonetheless, let's go back to it. 4.5 weeks ago, I'm sitting on this panel. Whilst I'm on this panel, this accountant says there are a number of grants and loans being constructed as we speak and being launched and released, which are said to help people move forward in their property journey. And not only their property journey, but in their business journey generally. Now, as he mentioned that, he started to speak about specific sectors. And he started to say that there's actually a register being constructed presumptuously about this particular sector that he started talking about. And interestingly enough, the sector he was talking about was hospitality. And after he finished, I kind of jumped on, summarized kind of some of the points he was making. And then straight after summarizing, I started to talk about that sector specifically. I started to break down a number of things that are going to happen. They weren't predictions. They were just my thoughts about what's going to happen in that sector. And this is 4.5 weeks ago. And lo and behold, today, we see a newspaper article come out. And the newspaper article basically says, according to The Guardian, and I'll say it like that, okay, just so they get their props. According to The Guardian, more than 30,000 pubs and restaurants may not reopen after lockdown. Now, in that wealth group where I actually saw this posted first, I responded and basically said, I think this is actually a radical underestimate. Okay, and the reason it's a radical underestimate is because generally statistics are done on a sample, which is a small group of people. After the small group of people have their say, those data are then extrapolated. So what does that mean? That means, well, if you take 1,000 people and ask them a question and 10 people say something, okay, you get a percentage for that. And then you can say, well, roughly that percentage is going to be, the scenario across the board. And if 1,000 people are 1/10 of the population you're talking about, i.e. the UK, then obviously, you apply certain metrics to expand that 1,000 to the actual population it's about. And you do the same with the statistic that you've just found. So this 30,000 is based on polls that they've said. So I don't know how accurate they are. But the thing I want to share with you guys is, like I said at the beginning, and it's a really strong point. A lot of people may not think about this point, may not realize the potency or strength in this point. But guys, if you rely on, okay, and this is the key word, if you rely on mainstream media to give you the information that you think you need to make investment decisions, to give you the information that you think you need in order to help you move forward with your, your ability or attempts to become financially free, if that's what you want to use as a caveat or as a word, you'd be making a big mistake, okay? Because you'll be weeks late. you'll be weeks late. And guys, I'm not saying this because I'm a guru and I know the future. No, it's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with knowing the future or being a guru. It's actually got more to do with the fact that when you're in an industry, you start to understand what are the driving forces of the industry, what makes those industries tick, and how those industries tick. Now, I'm not in the hospitality industry per se. Okay, so how does Samuel understand that this is going to happen in the hospitality industry way before the Guardian are reporting it? And it's not that I know it's going to happen. It's I can pick that up because I know about the property element. Okay, and this is one of the things I really like about property, which I share to people all the time. Property is very deeply ingrained in potentially 90%, 80% of businesses that actually operate. Okay, unless you're a business that operates from home, which is still a property, 9 times out of 10, there are commercial buildings that are property assets. And because they're property assets, someone who's deeply ingrained in property will understand some of the things that are going to take place in terms of trends with any industry, okay, when certain things happen. Now, businesses such as, restaurants, the question is going forward, okay, if there is no way that they're going to be able to construct social distancing in hospitality businesses, then how can they reopen? And if they can't reopen, then how can they generate a revenue? And another thing which is even more interesting, and you should be thinking about this as someone who's watching this, how are you generating revenue right now? Okay, if furlough is the only way you're generating revenue right now, you're missing a trick. You're missing a few tricks, probably about 1,000. But don't rely on what is handed to you only. Okay, and I guess that's part of the key principle I want to share. Don't rely on what is handed to you only. Okay, so as I said, the phone line is open. The access code is there. Feel free to utilize the phone line. Feel free to use the access code. Jump on and ask any questions that you may have for tonight. And the phone line is open. Team has told me that it is open, so feel free to call in and we'll be able to answer your questions. So that's the first thing I really wanted to discuss anyway as we jumped on the show. I wanted to encourage people who are watching this to not be people relying on the mainstream media in order to inform them on their investment decisions. And the reason they shouldn't rely on the mainstream media to inform them in regards to their investment decisions is the mainstream media has no benefit. They are not incentivized to help you succeed as it pertains in terms of your investment experience, your investment future. And this is something people forget a lot of the time. A lot of the time people forget that, hold on a minute, if they've got no vested interest in me succeeding, why would they help me succeed? Okay? Because, the basic principle of economics is that there has to be something in it for somebody in order to do something. So I want you to think about that. All right, so with all of that said, I'm going to go through the comments, just check a few of the comments that we've seen here. Okay, Yogesh just says, what is my prediction for house prices over 2 years? I think you mean over the next 2 years. Is this recession going to be worse than the last one in 2008? I think that is a fantastic question. I think that's a fantastic question. All right, so this is what I'm going to start by doing. I'm going to start by giving context. So first and foremost, this is, again, not only for Yogesh, it's for anyone who's watching, because I assume that everyone's going to get some value out of this answer. First and foremost, the first thing I'll say is I don't personally have enough insight, knowledge, and experience to call an answer to that question. I can share my view, which I will do, but I don't have enough oversight. I guess I'd use that terminology. Okay, now I listen to people who purport about, whether there's going to be a crash, how bad the crash is going to be, etc. But I always remember that how much information I have doesn't determine who I am. So who I am is a product of the things I've exposed myself to, things I've learned, things I've trained under and trained about. So because of that, I'll give you an answer from my perspective. But like I said, this is not an expansive, yes, I call this. And like I said, I don't feel as though I'm qualified in that sense to call that. Because again, my main thing is not macroeconomics, looking at a number of different sectors. My thing is property, looking at investment property, investing in property, and also using property to build assets, predominantly HMOs, to help people move forward. So with that being said, obviously property sourcing is one of the strings in my bow as well, probably one of the stronger ones. But my prediction for house prices over the next 2 years, is this recession going to be worse than the last one of 2008? I believe, okay, and this is me again sharing my view, I believe that this recession, and I say with quotations on, and the reason I say with quotation is because right now, most people in the UK do not believe we're in a recession. Okay, right now, mainstream media are not telling most people in the UK we're in a recession. So because right now most people in the UK don't believe we're in a recession, and mainstream media currently haven't told them that we're in a recession, right now there's a question mark for most people about whether this is a recession. Okay, now I personally believe, yes, we are currently in a recession. I believe we've been in a recession since, I think, the 22nd of March, which basically means we've already been in a recession for 2 months. Okay, and the reason I use the 22nd of March as an indicator, actually, rather than saying that I'll send you out there to do some homework, I would encourage you to go and look at what was happening in the financial markets in the United States of America on and around the 22nd of March. Okay, now one of the things I've believed, and I've seen this again and again since probably about 2005, the UK market in property and a number of other things generally tends to follow after the United States market. So if you see the United States market tanking, or the tanking just means dipping, going down, or you see the market in the United States going up, because of the correlated relationship, the close link that there is between the UK and the US market, what generally tends to happen is the UK market follows after the US market. So one of the things I started doing a number of years ago, probably about 2008, 2009, is I started basically following and watching the United States market, because I started finding that, hold on a minute, every single time something phenomenal, something big, something strong, something expansive takes place in the United States, it's only a matter of time, and usually a shorter matter of time, when the same thing is taking place in the UK. So I had a coaching client, just to give you an example, I had a coaching client reach out to me this week and basically asked me on one of the coaching calls specifically about price crashes. Okay, and this relates to Yogesh's comment. And what they said is, people like Robert Kiyosaki and a few other people in the US have predicted there's going to be a 30% price depression or price decrease on property. Okay, now this is the thing you have to remember. If Robert Kiyosaki calls something like that, Robert Kiyosaki 9 times out of 10, okay, giving context, is probably talking about the United States market. Now, obviously, if he says he's talking about Tokyo, if he says he's talking about the UK, if he says he's talking about Japan, if he says he's talking about somewhere else, then maybe he's talking about somewhere else. But 9 times out of 10, if you have just a blanket statement from Robert Kiyosaki about the property market, he's probably talking about, first and foremost, Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, why Phoenix, Arizona? Because that was his original primary investment landscape. He may be talking about Hawaii, because that's again where he has a background in, but predominantly he's talking about the United States market, which obviously has 50 plus states, etc., etc. So he's talking about a specific place. All right. Now, I basically shared with a coaching client that, look, usually the UK property market also tracks the US property market, but not with the same potency. Okay, and that's a very important thing to realize. When I say not with the same potency, what do I mean? Just to clarify that, what I mean is this. Usually, if you look back historically, if there's a 30, 40, let's call it 50, be very, very extreme, so you guys can really see this point. Usually, if there's a 50% price depression in the United States property market, you may see a 38, 40% price depression in the UK. Okay, so they are linked heavily. There is a correlation. Okay, but the thing that you find, there are differences, and those differences, again, from a statistical standpoint, are what play a part in making the difference. I'll give you one of the big differences. Okay, I mentioned a moment ago, there are multiple states in the United States of America. In the UK, all right, in the UK, yes, it's a formation of a number of different countries, but the UK is a small island. And because it's a relatively small island when you compare it to somewhere like the United States of America, what that means is, again, I share this nearly every single week on the Strategy on the Storm, on coaching calls, etc. Businesses operate based on 2 metrics. Those metrics are supply and demand. So the point is, because supply and demand as a metric is different in the UK, therefore there will be differences in terms of how the UK market, according to property, is affected by global phenomena, by world occurring events. Okay, so although yes, there may be, if you want to go by Robert Kiyosaki's point, if my coaching client is accurate and there's a 30% depression, if that was the prediction, I basically shared that I don't believe if there is a 30%, and again, I'm making this very, very clear, guys, so you don't later on say, oh, Samuel said, there's going to be a 30%. No, I didn't say that. What I said is, if there is a 30% price decrease in the United States on property, I don't believe that the UK will have this exact same percentage of decrease. I believe it will be slightly less. Okay, so that might look like 20%, 25%, 22%, somewhere around there. Okay, but that's if the US have such a price decrease. Now, going back to the question specifically, is this recession going to be worse than the last one in 2008? First thing to clarify, yes, I do believe there's currently a recession going on. Okay. But one of the things I shared with someone recently, again, I'll share so there's a bit more context. I said to them that, look, there's a recession going on. But the thing is, because the mainstream media are not pushing that message right now, they're still busy pushing messages about wearing gloves, wearing masks, and standing. I believe it's 2 meters currently, 2 meters away from people. Because of the social distancing, so social isolation messaging that's going on right now, because they're so busy with that. Okay, nobody's talking about what's happening on the mainstream economically right now. And because nobody's talking about what's happening economically on the mainstream, what's happening is the main general public are not aware of what's happening financially and economically, because the mainstream public don't listen to things like Reuters. They don't go out of their way to hear what Bloomberg are saying. Okay, and I'm not saying that these places, because in my understanding, and this is me sharing with you guys so you get more value, like I basically categorize both Bloomberg, Reuters, and all of those organizations as mainstream media as well, but just in the financial sector. So again, they're not people that I generally say, oh, they're telling me the right news at the right time. Again, if you remember what I said at the beginning of this live stream, and guys, if you're just tuning in, hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe to the channel so you can continue to get value every single time we do a live stream, or each and every time we drop a video, which is weekly. But what I want to share with you is I don't believe, and at the beginning of this live stream, I said it very clearly. I believe if you're looking and following mainstream media, you are a week, and again, I said I was being jovial, but you're behind. You're behind in terms of news, because there's news you can get today, in today's day and age. There is news you can get at the drop of a hat right now. Okay, you can get information very quickly right now because of the information age that we are in. Okay, so if you're relying on mainstream media, my belief, let me put it that way, is that you're way behind in terms of what is really going on. So just like the article I showed from The Guardian, whatever, a few minutes ago, that article was written and released today, but they're speaking about something that I was sharing 4.5 weeks ago on a panel. Okay, and what did I need to do that? Did I need to go and take surveys and take polls? No, because business operate of two principles, supply and demand. When there is supply and no demand, price generally reduces. Why does price reduce? In order to encourage, and as the governments are using this word now, in order to stimulate demand. Okay. Now, equally, when there's demand and no supply, what happens? Price increases. So if you want me to share with you an example, just write the word example in the chat, and I will give you a very, very clear example of how prices have increased in this current climate. Okay, in this current climate, something that every single person will be able to say, oh, I've noticed that, I've seen that. Okay, I'm going to give you a very, very clear example. And I'm going to give you an example which some people might not have known before I actually gave that example. And the reason is because some people really know how to mask things. Okay, so I'm one of those people. I see some of those things, and sometimes you've just got to call it out, because if you don't call it out, then how will people ever know, that this is actually really going on? So like I've said, first point, don't follow mainstream media only in order to basically make investment decisions. If you allow all your investment decisions to be made solely based on, what's going on in mainstream media, guys, you're going to be light years behind. That's the first thing. Okay, I even remember 2008. It's funny that Yogesh mentions 2008. I remember in 2008, there were contrasting articles being published even by the same newspaper in periods as short as 3 days. What do I mean by that? You had one newspaper basically coming out on one day saying property prices have dropped by X amount, and then 2-3 days later the same paper will basically report that property prices are now on an increase. Like, guys, this is ludicrous. Okay, but this kind of stuff happens all the time. I've got one example coming through. Again, guys, look, write the word example. If you want me to give you an example, write the word example. We've got one example in the chat so far. Write the word example and I'll give you an example. So That's the first thing I want to share with you guys. Okay. Don't be the kind of person who's solely relying on mainstream news, mainstream media in order to basically work out and decide how you invest, where you invest, when you invest. Guys, you'll be light years behind. And not only will you be light years behind, you won't actually get the value that is necessary in order for you to move forward in your property journey. That's it. Now, second thing that I said we potentially will look at as well or discuss is bounce back loans. The bounce back loans are here. Okay. Now, what's interestingly happening is with these bounce back loans, you've got last week, they were basically opened up. And from them being opened up, you've got thousands, okay? Thousands of people. Okay. I've got another example there. So I'm going to go back into that in a moment. You've got thousands of people basically applying for bounce back loans. Okay. Now, listen, having money is a great thing. Guys, I'm going to say it again. You can write that down. Having money is a great thing. I'm even going to go deeper with you. I'll share a verse from the Bible. In the Bible, it says, money answereth all things. Okay, this isn't about getting religious. This is just about a principle, a life principle. It says, money answereth all things. I'll give you an example of how that verse in the Bible makes sense. If you wake up in the morning and you are not sure if you can have breakfast, if you're going to have breakfast or not, there's a question in your mind. Can you have breakfast this morning? Money will answer that question. Okay, guys, it's that simple. Money answereth all things. That's a verse in the Bible written, ample 2,000 plus years ago. All right. But the reason I'm sharing this is because although having money is a good thing, what you have to understand is if you have someone's money, you're going to be subject to that person's rules. If you have somebody's money, you're going to be subject to that person's rules. Now, how do I know that? The reason I know that is because I've been investing in property for a number of years and I've been using other people's money to do that. So people write loan agreements and give me their money, allow me to use their money and return their money to them with an interest. Okay. So because I've been doing that for a number of years, I understand the dichotomy behind using people's money and thus being, to a degree. Okay. Now, obviously, the more you do that, the more you get a bit savvy about it. But the government is a little bit different to a private investor. Please, you might want to write that down if you're one of the people watching this and taking notes. The government is a little bit different to a private investor. So as a direct byproduct, I'm going to go into the example I was talking about earlier because I've got a couple of examples here, and then I'll come back to this and I'm going to tie them both together to give you even more value so you guys understand this. Now, if you're getting value already from this stream, I'd love for you to write the word value in the chat, just so we know you're getting value so far. I know you're getting value. I know I'm giving value, but if you're getting value, please write the word value in the chat. And why not hit the like button just to say that you like this content and to tell the YouTube algorithm that this is the kind of content people need to engage with in the YouTube world. Now, here's an example. Okay. Go to any major high street supermarket. Okay. Usually, ideally, I'd say this, ideally, you want to go to the superstores, the larger stores. Okay. And I'm going to give you a clear example about one specific superstore. Now, I'm not trying to call them out. Okay. So I'm not going to say the name of the superstore, but this is one specific superstore. Okay. Now, a week after lockdown was announced, okay, I went to this superstore and I said something to my wife, which was interesting. I'll come on to that in a moment. I went to this superstore and I walked around the superstore, and actually, let me show you the real way, because that way you'll get the most value. I sat with my wife. My wife basically said to me, she went into a local shop, okay, and in that local shop selling essential goods, basically they had increased their prices of certain things. Toilet paper slightly increased, etc., etc. All right. Now, this is a local shop, okay. Now, she comes home, she tells me this. Oh, husband, I went to this shop today, and the prices were slightly increased. And I said something to her interesting. I said to her, the funniest thing about that, I said, you're going to see the same thing in supermarkets, but the difference with the supermarkets is they will mask it. Okay. Now, a few days later, so this was about the first week and a half of the lockdown, I went to a supermarket. And what did I find in the supermarket? I saw the specific way that they masked it. Okay. And you might have seen this. I assume you have seen it, but maybe haven't taken notice, and maybe you'll see it soon. Okay. The bottle of juice, okay, freshly squeezed juice that you maybe usually buy for £1.50. Okay. But you can get an offer where they say you can buy 2 for £2. Okay. The offer was gone. All right. Now, it's not just about the juice, because you might be thinking, okay, but that's just juice. It's not just about the juice. Go around the whole supermarket, okay, and go and look for the typical offers that you became accustomed to pre-COVID and pre-isolation. And tell me, you can come back, come back on the next stream next week and let me know if those offers are still available. And I can close to guarantee you that they're all gone. Every single one of them are gone. Okay. Let me be nice, because I'm a statistician. 80 to 90% of them gone. Okay. Why are they gone? Because this is the way that a mega store, a superstore, this is the way that a global business increases its profits at times of hardship for most people. Now, like I said, most people will be struggling first week, second week, third week, fourth week, trying to work out what they're going to do about their income, trying to work out what they're going to do about this or that. If you're a property person, there were so many people reaching out to me, trying to work out what they're going to do about their property journey, about their portfolio, about their tenants, about tenants that had said to them they're moving out, etc., etc. Okay, that's property specific. But the point is, in that week, those major superstores were pulling off offers from every single product they have in their store. Now, someone might say, oh, but that's not a price increase. That is a price increase. And I'll give an example. If you typically buy a bottle of freshly pressed juice, a 1 litre bottle of freshly pressed juice for £1, because you'd usually say, well, I'd buy two for £2 rather than buying one for £1.50. And now you're still buying two, because I'm still going to buy two. I'm not going to reduce how many I buy because of the price. Then what's now happening is they're making £3 from two bottles, which, if you look at it numerically, okay, is a 50% price increase. That's a 50% price. Let me assure you of something. There aren't going to be many local shops that are going to be able to pull off a 50% price increase. Okay, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. Just say in the chat, Samuel, I think you're wrong about that. But guys, I can assure you there are not many local shops that are going to be able to pull off a 50% price increase, and if I put it this way, and get away with it. But superstores will do this all day long. And guys, we're not just talking about one item. We're talking about potentially every item in the store. Now, the great thing is the store's still open. So because they're open, you're happy. You can still go to your Marks and Spencers, your Tesco's, your Waitrose, wherever it is. But the reality is, people are gaining from this predicament. Okay, they're taking advantage from this predicament. And look, let me even say this. If you want to be someone who starts to understand how to take advantage in this current property climate, what I want you to do is go to a link, which we're going to throw in the chat in a moment, and register for our webinar, which we're going to be doing on Monday. Because on that webinar, what we're going to be doing is adding value to you and helping you understand how you can take advantage in this current property climate. And the funniest thing is, a lot of people do not know how they're going to take advantage in this property climate. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. Okay, so we've been helping people for a number of weeks to understand how to do this and to actually do this. Thank you, team, for putting a link in the description. Now, or in the chat, I mean. So guys, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take full advantage. Jump on the webinar so you can basically get value, so you can understand a little bit more about what we're doing in the current climate and what you could potentially be doing in the current climate. So first thing I wanted to share with you guys, which we covered, I think, very, very neatly and nicely, was don't follow mainstream media's news alone to basically inform you for your investment decisions, because the problem with that is it will leave you behind. The second thing we were talking about was the bounce back loans, and that example I gave you guys about the supermarkets works in tandem with this ideology of the bounce back loans. Now, how does it work in tandem with the ideology of the bounce back loans? Well, I made a statement a moment ago before I gave the example, and that statement was, when you use somebody's money, you become subject to their rules. Okay, if you use somebody's money, you become subject to their rules. Now, why is that important? That's important because, very similar to how the supermarkets removed something which potentially you may have seen as a benefit prior. Okay, and I want you to be very, very mindful of this. Okay, you might have said, oh, that's a great deal, okay, when you originally started going to that supermarket. Okay, but the thing is, if that deal is removed, then the next day, the very, very next day that you go to the same supermarket, you'll be dealing with something completely different. And the same applies with bounce back loans. The same applies with anything else in this world. Okay. And guys, I'm just saying this to be very, very transparent. I want you to understand this. The same thing applies with anything else you're dealing with in this world. I'll make the statement again. If you're using somebody's money, you can potentially become subject to their rules. Okay. And many people fail to remember this. And because they fail to remember this, what generally tends to happen is they make decisions based on the here and the now. Okay, they make decisions based on the here and now. The news report comes out, COVID-19, stay in your house. You're going to make a decision based on the here and now. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, for some people who haven't done maybe what I've done, if I put it that way, that's actually not their fault. And what do I mean by it's not their fault? Or I may be speaking to someone specifically. That might not be your fault. Why do I say it's not their fault? For some people, it's not actually their fault. For those people who's not their fault, the reason it's not their fault is because sometimes if you are answerable to someone, if you answer to somebody, if you work a day job, okay, if you work a 9-to-5 job, for example, and your employer says, we're shutting the business down. We're closing. Okay. And your employer says, we can't accommodate you. Okay. And I'm not even talking about the instances where they basically, fire the person or make the person redundant or let them go. But I'm just talking about the simple instances where these people say to themselves, you know what? I can't actually keep the store open or the shop open or the office open. When those things happen, I want you to be very mindful of something. If you haven't put yourself in a position where you have a level of strength economically or mentally or, sociologically, there's so many ways I could go down. But if you don't have that level of strength, the problem is you're going to be subject to this other person's decisions. And, last week I spoke on the stream about the difference between reactions, okay, and responses. There is a difference between reacting and responding, reactions and responses. And the reason this is so important is because you have to think about that. Because you may work for an employer who is just reacting to the scenario when you have enough information to adequately respond to a scenario. Okay, and I'll give you an example. Okay, in the United States, over the last 3.5 weeks, we have had probably close to 100 doctors, 100 professional, medical, qualified doctors basically come out on the internet, social media, Facebook, YouTube, and on YouTube, all of these videos have been censored, basically saying this is their view on what's going on. And the funniest thing is they're medical doctors. Apparently, they're on the front line. They're the people dealing with the pandemic. But although they've done that, these people have been silenced. YouTube has basically said, if you're not taking information from the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, then you're not getting accurate information. Now, the thing that's interesting about that is obviously there's the whole freedom of speech aspect of that, which I won't get into. I'll leave that to other people like London Real, Brian Rose. He's doing a great job over there. But for me, the real issue is the simple fact that if somebody has the information, they should be given a platform to share the information. And the problem is we live in a world where it doesn't work like that. We live in a world where if somebody has the platform, they get to share whatever information they like. And this basically just goes back to the first point I made earlier on about not relying on mainstream media to basically tell you whether you're right, whether you're wrong, whether you're up, whether you're down, whether you should invest, whether you shouldn't invest, etc. Okay, and most people do it, guys. Most people do it. They read a newspaper article, property prices are booming in Brighton. I'm not buying in Brighton right now. Prices are going up. Or property prices are said to boom in Brighton for the next 10 years because of a university that this or that, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, yep, I'm going to invest in Brighton. I'm buying houses in Brighton, etc. Guys, you can't make investment decisions like that. Okay, and I'm going to be very transparent and say this. If you could, then wouldn't everybody be financially free? Wouldn't everybody be rich? Wouldn't everybody be successful? Wouldn't everybody be a property millionaire, multi-millionaire, billionaire? Let's say billionaire because it's the news. The news comes out every single day. If we were following mainstream media in order to move forward, okay, and to be successful, everybody, most people, let me use that term, be nice, most people would be successful because there's some people who don't read the news, but most people would be successful. Guys, it doesn't work like that. And this is what I want to encourage you to understand. It doesn't work like that. Okay. Get around people who know what they're talking about. Get around people who understand the framework. Get around people who can help you. Get around people who are willing to show you the way it actually does work. And they're the kind of people who generally can help you. All right. They're the kind of people who generally can help you. So bounce back loans, going back to the bounce back loans. Bounce back loans recently announced. A whole bunch of people are very keen and eager. I've had a bunch of people coming to me saying, look, Samuel, it's property money. Like, it's money to buy property. Okay. It's money that I can go and get better than a 6% return and buy some property. And look, let me tell you this, based on the offer that's been told to people for the bounce back loans, I would say that's a fantastic idea. It's a great idea. Okay. If you have a business that allows you, and I'm speaking specifically to property people, if you've got another business, then that's something else. You can, get the informed decisions, the informed right regulatory people to give you the advice. But what I'd say is, if you've got a property business, that it makes sense to leverage a bounce back loan of 50,000, 200,000, whatever amount that may be for you. And you can then put that to work into the economy, back into the economy, in order to get property assets, which are going to generate revenues for you beyond what you are going to pay. Then that makes sense. But the issue is the statement I made earlier. When you are using someone else's money, you are subject potentially to their rules. Okay. And if you understand that, that's when you start to ask a second, third, fourth, or fifth maybe question before you just press the button. And guys, it is that simple. I'm going to be honest with you. It's as simple as pressing a button. What do I mean by that? Well, I've had people reach out to me and say, look, I applied on Monday. I had the money in my account on Wednesday. And they only asked me for 5 questions. There's no personal guarantee. There's no this, there's no that. Guys, let me tell you something. You don't need to ask for a personal guarantee when you're the government. Okay. And people don't understand this stuff. The government can change the rules anytime. They did that to put you in isolation. Okay. So please don't believe that because the offer sounds nice now, that the offer can't change. And I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm not saying this because I don't think people should go and take advantage of the resource. I'm saying it because I just think it's the truth. I just think there's a whole bunch of people who may not have actually asked a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth question before actually really thinking about going to get these loans and taking advantage of them, okay, and using them. And I'll even add using them the right way, okay, and that's really, really important. If you're going to use something, use it the right way, because that's what's important. So guys, what I also wanted to share with you guys is we've got the sourcing blueprint for you. Other side. Right here. Okay, so the sourcing blueprint is available for you guys in order for you to go and get that absolutely free. It's our free resource on tonight's live stream. If you've never heard of the sourcing blueprint, go get that ebook. It's a free ebook which we created in order to help people move forward in their property journey. Now, every single person, no matter what you're doing in property, needs to be able to source properties. You need to be able to find, secure, and also potentially sell, even if you're just selling the idea to yourself, but source, secure, and sell property opportunities. And the sourcing blueprint breaks down very simply in 4 steps, not 5, not 12, not 100, in 4 simple steps, how to source properties, but not only how to source properties, how to also source, secure, and sell those properties. It's a very, very comprehensive, but yet succinct ebook which will help you to move forward in your property journey. So go on that link, www.impactproperties.co.uk/sourcing blueprint, okay, lowercase, uppercase, you choose, and get your free copy of the sourcing blueprint ebook that will help you to improve your property sourcing endeavors. And if you've never done anything in property, go get the ebook. It will be a good read for you to start to understand how you can move forward in your property journey. Now, I've been going on for quite a while. I'm going to jump back into the chat, see if there's any questions in there. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Feel free to call the number. I'm not sure if the lines are still open. They should still be open anyway, but feel free to call the number and we can basically help you with that. And we're going to go through the chat. And then after that, I might just share with you guys one more thing before we jump off tonight. So I've got in here. Okay, so I'm okay. So I'm just noticing Yogesh asked, or at the beginning of his question, I don't think I really touched on that. So, okay, so let's do that really quickly. So we probably won't be taking any calls tonight, but we'll do that really quickly before we jump off. So Yogesh was talking about basically the next 2 years and property prices. So I actually think in the next 2 years, I think there is going to be a decrease in property price. Okay. I think there is going to be a decrease in property price, but I'm going to caveat that. When I say a decrease, I'm talking about stagnation. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I generally operate in the London market. I have 2 other markets outside of London that I operate in with my team. And the reality is I see property price stagnation coming. Okay, especially around the time that the media stop talking about COVID and start talking about the financial markets. When that happens, okay, that shift, when that takes place, okay, there's going to be an effect, okay, because there's something called herd mentality. We've got a video called the obstacles and opportunities in property. After you finish this video, feel free to go watch that on our channel, the obstacles and opportunities in property. Now on that video, during that video, the obstacles and opportunities in property, I talk about something called herd mentality. Now herd mentality is something that has always taken place, for generations, for decades, for centuries. And all that means is when most people are doing something, other people start doing it too, and then you end up with a herd, okay, just like animals. Okay, now why is that important? The reason it's important is when mainstream media present an idea, present a concept, okay, and they push that concept with their big media guns, okay, on every platform, 6 o'clock news, 8 o'clock news, 10 o'clock news, bam, 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 good morning TV, blah, blah, blah. When mainstream media push an agenda, what generally tends to happen is that the mainstream population start to adopt that message, and because they adopt that message, they then generally tend to do what would coincide with the adoption of that message. So for example, just to make it simple, if mainstream media said tomorrow that there was no coronavirus and it was just basically a hoax, for example, what would generally happen is, establishments will open back up, like everything will just start opening back up, okay, like nothing happened. And guys, listen, this is how crazy this is. The same way people went from not knowing about COVID-19 to being locked down in their house is the exact same way. If mainstream media did the exact same thing, the opposite way, people would go back to work. People would open up. People would be just look at their mask and think, why was I wearing that for the last couple of weeks? Okay, because that's what mainstream media do. They sell a narrative, and when they sell that narrative to the mainstream operate off of it, and that's called herd mentality. Now, why is that important? Okay, the reason herd mentality is important is because, like I said earlier, markets operate off supply and demand. So the property market moves off of supply and demand. So if, for example, the mainstream population of our country are not buying because they're afraid of something, then there will be a supply and demand effect. And that effect usually happens more vibrantly when the mainstream population are doing something, whether it's them choosing to all buy at the same time or choosing not to buy at the same time. Now, what we're seeing right now, as markets have just opened up for estate agents, etc., recently, is we're seeing a boom. We're seeing a slight boom. Okay, I'm not saying a price increase, but we're seeing a boom, and that's a boom in activity. Okay, so if you speak to most estate agents right now, they're saying, yeah, we're seeing a lot of people kind of engage us, okay, call in, etc., etc. Why are they seeing a boom? They're seeing a boom, okay. They're seeing a boom because of one specific thing, okay? The boom is coming simply because the fact that people have been waiting for quite a while to do what they're trying to do, okay? People have been waiting to take advantage of this current climate. People have been waiting to move. People have been wanting to move. Some people, because of this climate, are saying, I've got to move now. So that's why they're seeing a quite a large surge right now of activity, but that's only a surge of activity. All right, that's only a surge of activity. But what I want you to understand is that surge of activity isn't necessarily a mainstream movement, and that's something we're going to see when the news start reporting another message. Okay, so whatever that message may be, when that message starts coming out, that's when we're going to start seeing a change. All right, so I think the team just changed the banner. We've got a message that just came in from Oliver. Oliver says, what's the access code to reach Samuel? If you call in with the number above, the access code is there. So you can use the access code that is on the screen. Feel free to use that. And that is how you basically get your call in or your call answered. So, just going back to that last point, over the next 2 years, how do I see things basically going? Quite simply, I do see there being stagnation in the property market in terms of prices. I see prices leveling out, and from leveling out, I do assume there's going to be a dip. And I do assume that there's going to be some great opportunities for people. Now, the issue with this is I feel like where the opportunity really is going to be in a place where most people are not prepared to actually enter. Okay. And when I say prepared, I'm talking about more psychologically than financially. Some people will have the money to do what they need to do with the opportunity that is going to come, but they're not going to have the ability psychologically. They're not going to be geared for it. So I'll give you an example. If, for example, the opportunity came in buying cars and selling cars, I'm just using something as an example, because most people who are in property want to buy property, they're not going to be ready to buy cars. Okay, so just think of it like that. Hopefully that will help you move forward. All right, so we've got a call coming in. I'm going to take this call, and then after that call, we will be wrapping up. So let's see who's called in. Thank you, team. Should be good to be able to do this. Hello, good evening. Not sure why this isn't going through. Let me check this quickly. Yep, that should be fine. Hello, good evening. Caller 2821. You are live with us. Okay, let me see if I can get the caller on. Maybe the volume's too low. I can hear you perfectly. Hello, sir. Am I speaking with Oliver? Hi, Oliver. Oliver, let me ask you two questions before I put you live to the audience. Are you happy for everybody to hear what you are going to say to me? Excellent. And secondarily, are you happy for everybody to hear what I'm going to say to you about whatever you're trying to strategize with? Uh, well, I couldn't respond to you then. I could just tell you I'll get back to you another time. Let's blow it off. All right, cool. So, good evening, Oliver. I've got Oliver on the line, guys. Guys, you should be able to hear Oliver when Oliver decides to talk. Oliver, how can I help you? And guys, for those of you who are tuned in and getting value, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and also, why don't you hit the bell notification so you can keep up to date as we share more value on our channel? So, Oliver, how can we help you?
Basically, my question is just two questions. If where is the right place to invest for someone that is just a beginner that just want to do a buy, refurbish, and remortgage?
Okay, cool. So, first question I'd say to you. So, Oliver's just asked what I think is a really fantastic question. Oliver has said, where is the best place to invest for somebody who wants to do buy, refurbish, and remortgage, which is also known as BRR as a strategy, or buy, refurbish, and refinance? Now, first question I'm going to ask you, Oliver, is have you seen on our YouTube channel the video where we basically speak about BRR?
Basically, I haven't seen that.
Okay, cool.
From
So
your channel.
that's fine. That's fine. So what I'd encourage you to do when you do finish watching this video, find that video on our channel and take full advantage of that, okay? Because that will give you some insights in terms of BRR and what it's really about. The title of that video is adding value versus restoring value, okay? Adding value versus restoring value. So if you search on the Impact Properties channel, adding value versus restoring value, you will find the answer to that. So you said you had 2 questions, so I'm going to go quick through the first and then move into the second. The answer to your question is this, Oliver. It depends. Okay. Now, the reason it depends is because you might be based in London. And if I say to you, well, the best place to go and do this is in a place called Cleveland's, and you may not even know where Cleveland's is, but Cleveland's is all the way past Blackpool. Okay. And that's let's call it a 5-hour drive from London to get there. Okay. And you might be like, well, okay, that's a great place, but it's 5 hours away. So because it's 5 hours away, I'm never going to invest there. Okay. So this is what I'd say to you, Oliver. The key is not to know where to go. Okay. I'm even gonna make it even better for you. I'm gonna add even more value. Okay. One of the things, Oliver, I think you will know this concept, and those of you that are watching, again, if you haven't hit like, but you'll probably know this concept as well. There's an advert that came out years ago, and it was about I think it was I can't remember what it was, but basically the concept was, don't give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. Okay, if you give a man a fish, him and his family will have dinner for the night. If you teach a man to fish, he can give his family food every single night. Does that make sense?
That's come to the second question, which I have for you.
We're gonna come to the second question. We're gonna come to the second question. Yeah. But does the concept make sense?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Cool. So with that concept, this is why I'm gonna say to you what I'm gonna say to you. If I tell you where to go and invest to do buy, refurbish, refinance, the problem is one slight change in the market nationally or just locally in that area, and that strategy may not work ever again. Okay, so that's the problem when you go and follow these gurus or follow these people on YouTube or wherever else, and they say to you, yeah, just go here, or just find properties like this. The key is to understand what you're doing and to understand the strategy. So what I would say to you is, for buy, refurbish, refinance, you want to plug yourself into a specific niche which will guarantee that you will be able to lucratively work that strategy. Now, would you like me to give you an example of that? And guys, this is to you as well. In the chat, let me know. If you want an example, write the word example, okay? Oliver, would you like an example?
Yeah, I'm just hitting that on my screen.
I like that. All right, here's a clear example for you. All right? Now, some people, I'll give you a strategy which works very clearly. Some people buy 2-bedroom houses, okay, in an area where they know that the price of a 2-bedroom house is significantly lower than the price of a 3-bedroom house, okay? So I'll give you an example. There are some houses that are built a specific way where if you look at the house from the outside, the top of the house will have 2 windows. Okay, and those 2 windows are equidistant from each other, which means, there's the same amount of distance from each window. Now, if you go into the house, in these particular houses designed this particular way, you go into the house, you go upstairs into the house. When you get upstairs into the house, those 2 windows serve one big, large bedroom. Okay, and then the house on top of the stairs will have another bedroom upstairs and sometimes have a bathroom upstairs as well. So that's a typical 2 up, 2 down house. So downstairs, 2 reception rooms typically and a kitchen, upstairs 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. Okay, now the powerful thing about that is if you identify houses like that in an area where there's a significant price difference between a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom house, what you can do is you can buy a house as a 2-bedroom house, identifying the opportunity to convert that major bedroom into 2 bedrooms. You can convert that bedroom through means of using a stud wall. And again, depending on where you are in the country, that is not an expensive task. You're looking less than £5,000, way less. Okay, just saying. I'll give you an example. We did a stud wall. Where are we? We're in May now. The last stud wall we did, I think, was in it was probably February. Okay, so this is just a couple months back, and we paid less than £1,000 to have that stud wall done, and we had a light fitting also done with that. Okay, so it's less than £1,000. So the point I'm making is that's an investment where you're now turning a 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house. Now, if the numbers work, okay, if the numbers work, which is the key, Okay, and it's learning how to make the numbers work so that BRR can work for you, or buy, refurbish, refinance can work for you. If the numbers work, you can do that all day long, all the way down that street. Okay, so again, I'm gonna make up numbers, okay, just to make it make sense. But if a 2 bedroom house is typically 50,000 in the area I'm talking about, okay, and a three
Yeah.
bedroom house is typically 80,000 in the area I'm talking about, okay, you
Yeah.
buy a house for 50,000. You spend your 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, whatever it costs to do your modifications. Let's just say we're doing exactly what I just gave you as an example. You're turning the master
All right.
bedroom into 2 bedrooms. Now you got a 3 bedroom house. You go and get that house revalued. Now you might not get 80,000 because you might not have a massive master bedroom. Okay, but you might get 74,000. You might get, and this is the funniest thing about valuations. 2-3 weeks ago, when we had AVMs, okay, automatic valuations being done by brokers, people did not realize that we were in one of the best climates to liquidate funds from the property, to extrapolate funds from the property market. And the reason people didn't realize that is because people don't have an understanding of the things I'm talking to you about right now. And this is why I always advocate having a coach or having people around you who can help you spot these opportunities. So long story short, you've got a £50,000 house. You spend an extra £4,000 or £5,000 on the refurbishment, and obviously you're going to spend on fees, whether it be stamp duty, etc., etc. Now you've got a 3 bedroom house. You get that revalued. They're revaluing it at 79,000, 76,000, 78,000. Hopefully, if you've done it well, maybe they revalue it at 80,000. Now 75% of 80,000, you're pulling out the majority, if not all, of your money. Okay, 75% of that, was that 60k. So you're pulling out 60k. So the reason that's powerful is because that's BRR. That's BRR done properly. But most people out here talking about BRR don't have a clue, and they don't share with you what the realities are. So that's an example for all of the people that wrote example. There was several people writing example there, and obviously Oliver said he wanted example. Is that example helpful to you, Oliver?
Yes, absolutely it is.
Excellent. So do you want to go on to your second question?
My second question is regarding, you know, because we are thinking about how do we, what is the need in sourcing the properties? What's the first step to start with, and how do we get into it?
You elaborate on the question. I don't understand the question totally. Apologies. Maybe it's my volume. I'm turning up my headphones. But ask me the question again.
The question is, what is the secret in getting the best sourcing? Because I think in order to source a property or something like that,
Yeah.
is it better to pay a sourcer in order to get a good property, or you have to source it by yourself?
Perfect
Then,
question.
in sourcing it by yourself, what kind of
Mhm.
training do you need?
Okay, that's a jam-packed but amazing question. All right. So Oliver's question, I think you all heard the question anyway. I'll recite the question. Oliver asked, that's kind of really two questions, okay? For me, it's actually 3 questions. I'm going to break all 3 down, but it's kind of 2 questions. Oliver's first question is, what's the secret to sourcing great deals? That's kind of the first question. Is that right, Oliver?
Yes.
Okay. Oliver then went on to say, is it best to just pay a sourcer to source a property? So that's kind of, for me, a second question. And then the third question is, what do you need to do in order to source a property? So is that a good summary of the questions, Oliver?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So the first question, okay, what's the secret to sourcing a good deal? The secret is in the sourcing blueprint. Go get the blueprint. That's first, okay? The secret is in understanding.
Coming to that, sorry.
Yeah?
If someone that reads that book front and back, will you
Yeah?
become a professional by sourcing that property?
No, of course not. Of course
that's
not.
what that's
Of
okay.
course not. Let me ask you this. Okay. Okay. Let me say this. I won't ask you. I'll just say it. Okay. I've studied 4
Yeah.
university degrees. Okay. Now I'm gonna be very, very transparent with you, Oliver. Yeah. If any of those degrees, the lecturer gave me the reading, I actually got the reading list for about 3 of those degrees before I started the degree. That was a habit I got into after doing my first degree. I got into a habit of asking the course lecturers for the reading list for the uni degree I was going to do before I'd start the degree. Okay, just so I get a head start. But this is the point. I never ever got a reading list for a degree, read parts of the reading list or all of the reading list, then went and did the degree and said, listen, I don't need to be here for the degree. Just give me the qualification. I've read all the books. Okay, so the point I'm making is the sourcing blueprint is about structure. Okay, what is missing in, like, I'm I'm a qualified teacher. I'm also a qualified master teacher. I have a master's in teaching. I have a teaching qualification as well as all my statistics qualifications. The reason I say that is because when I came into property like full time, I just noticed that there were so many people teaching how to make money in property, but they weren't teaching anything. They weren't really sharing anything. They just stand up at a board and say, do this, do this, do this, do this. What they were really doing is telling you what they did. Okay. Now, true education is not about me telling you what I did. True education is me working with you from where you are, okay, and getting you to where you need to be or where you want to be. Okay. So that's not teaching, that's actually coaching. Okay. And there's not enough people in the property space that actually do real coaching, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. Anyway, so coming back to the question, someone who reads the book, someone who reads the sourcing blueprint, the sourcing blueprint is about structure. It's a free ebook which gives you the structure needed in order for you to successfully source property opportunities. So if you are the kind of person who knows how to put in graft, put in work, you can take that structure and build a very successful property sourcing business. And the great thing about a successful property sourcing business is you can take the best deals that ever come to you for yourself. Okay, so that's the sourcing blueprint. That's what I'd say about that. Okay, to answer your question, can you read that book and just become a professional? In my opinion, no. And the reason I also say no is because you're not a professional just because of what you've read. Nobody's a professional just because of what they read. So you have to take action in order to become a professional or proficient in anything. All right. So guys, if you're watching this and you're getting value, hit the like button, hit subscribe, probably even share this video so someone else can get value as well. Now, let's go back to the primary questions. First question, what's the secret to sourcing properties? The secret is one word. I'm going to share this word with you. Okay. Now, like I said, for me, the secret comes from going to get the sourcing blueprint and reading through it, because the one word, if you want the one word, is understanding. The one word is understanding. Understanding. It's nothing more complicated than that. It's understanding. Lots of people want knowledge. Okay. In the property world, I host a networking event. I get over 100 people at my networking event every month. And you know what most of them are looking for? They're looking for knowledge. The problem is, if you had all the knowledge in your head, it still does not produce opportunities. Okay. It's activity that produces opportunities. So the key is not the knowledge, the key is the understanding. Okay. In the Bible, again, the second time I'm quoting the Bible today, but in the Bible, it says, get wisdom, and with all you're getting, get understanding. What that's saying is, having wisdom, having knowledge which allows you to apply that knowledge is fantastic, but there's a secret ingredient that you need to take it to the next level, and that's understanding. So what do I mean by understanding? What I mean is, if you get the sourcing blueprint ebook and you read the 4 core areas that I've broken down are the 4 core things in order that you need to do to source property deals, if you get an understanding of those 4 core areas, then you will be able to monetize each and every one of those areas, or start to make money from your property sourcing endeavors using those areas. Okay. So that's the thing. The secret for me is understanding what you're really trying to do. And one of the easiest ways to get understanding, and this is very simple, hopefully this helps you. Hopefully this helps everyone on the stream. It will help everyone on the stream. The way to get understanding is work backwards. Most people do not do that. Most people have never heard of that. And why have they never heard of that? Because you go to school, okay, and you're not taught to do that. You're taught to do the opposite of that. You're taught to go from primary 1 to year 13 and then into university. That's what you're taught to do. You're not taught to work backwards. You're not taught to say to yourself, and this is going to be fantastic for parents. If you're a parent and you're watching this, hopefully take this, what I'm sharing, understand it and use it for your children, okay? You're not taught to ask yourself, what do you want the end result of this child, of this education endeavor, of this business to look like? Now, if you ask that question about your child, what do I want the end of this child to look like? Let's say I want the end of this child to be, I want this child to be someone who's a medical doctor. Then you know what med school currently, we don't know about the future, but we know currently what med school requires. Okay, you're going to need a minimum of 2 A's and maybe a B in order to get in. And if you want to guarantee success, you're going to want 3 A's because you can't get bigger than that. Okay, so we can now take the vision, as the Bible says, write the vision down, make it plain so he who sees it can run with it. Take the vision and work backwards. So let's go all the way to med school and say, okay, to get into med school, college, you need 3 A's. Okay, we need 3 A's in college. In what subjects? We know the subjects. Okay, what's the best preparation to get 3 A's in those subjects? Let's take it back. What are they going to have to do in secondary school? Okay, cool. We need these kind of results in secondary school. What kind of secondary school is going to produce those results? We take it back. Okay, cool. That's the kind of secondary school we need the child in. Okay, what kind of primary school is going to gain access to that secondary school? Okay, we take it back. Now, your child might be 2. And most people might be like, you're overkill, you're an extra parent. Why are you like that? But what you understand is, no, we're working on something. So it's the same in your property sourcing endeavors. Start with the end in mind. So what is the end? Okay, I want to source 14 properties in the next 5 years. So after I've sourced my 14th property, I'm going to be financially free. What does financially free look like? Okay, financially free looks like you having £14,000 a month. Then working back, every single one of those 14 properties you source for yourself needs to generate £1,000 or more a month, circa. Okay, so now you're working back. Okay, what kind of property can produce £1,000 a month? Can a standard single let produce £1,000 profit a month? In most cases, no. So now we're talking about HMOs. Okay, where can I get HMOs which generally generate £1,000 a month? Who do I know? These are key questions. Who do I know who's got HMOs generating £1,000 a month? Okay, a few of these guys, they're doing rent to rent, they don't own the property. A few of these guys, they're doing HMOs, they actually own the property. Okay, let me talk a bit more to these guys. As you talk a bit more to those guys, you get a better understanding of how you can move forward using HMOs as a resource in order to basically get your 14 over the next 5 years, 8 years, 7 years, 4 years, 3 years, whatever your goal is. It starts with your goal. It doesn't start with the news, with the media, all of the things we started the show talking about. And this is why the things I'm talking about are so important. So understanding is the key. And when we talk about understanding, we're talking about understanding what you're trying to achieve. The moment you understand what you're trying to achieve, you can start working backwards all the way to where you are today with the resources you have today and start asking questions which are really powerful, like, who do I need right now to help me to get to stage 1 of where I'm trying to get to in my stage 20, stage 10, stage 5, stage 4 journey? I hope that helps, Oliver. Yes?
Yeah, because definitely that's my next question to say, because you
Let me finish. Let me
explained
let me finish with the questions you asked. You asked quite a few. All right. Whatever question you got right now, write it down. We might be able to have time, but let me go through the other 2. All right. So the first question was, what's the secret ingredients to source properties? I've said to you, it's understanding. Second question is, should you buy deals from sources? Here's the answer. If that sourcer has a deal for you that makes sense in terms of your plan. Now, the problem is most people don't have a plan. So if they don't have a plan, they can't actually scrutinize the deal coming from the sourcer. That's the problem for most people. Okay, guys, I'm being so transparent. If you are on this live and you're getting value, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and make sure you become a part of the community so you can get value every single time we do a live like this. But look, it's that simple, Oliver. The thing that people don't realize is they have no plan. And I'm not talking about a business plan, an extensive plan. It don't have to be like that. Your plan can be a roadmap. You can take a piece of paper and just draw a road, put yourself as a stick man at the beginning of the road, and put a house, or put yourself as a stick man at the end of the road. It does not matter. And along the journey, what is your property journey supposed to look like? Just draw it out. One house, £500 a month profit. House number 2, £1,000 a month profit. House number 3, £1,500 a month profit. You can just draw the journey. Then the question is, okay, what do I need to do to get to stage 1? Who do I need to get to stage 1, etc., etc., etc. So the second thing, should you buy properties from property sources if the deal they're offering you makes sense? That's my answer to that. If it makes sense, and if you've done your due diligence and you feel that that property sourcing agent or that property sourcer knows what they're talking about, then yeah, step forward. That's what I'd say. It's not always about buying deals from property sources. Sometimes, and most of the time, there's a lot of property sources who are just characters, and that's the only word I'm going to use because I'm on the show and I don't want to be too rude. But yeah, there's some property sources who are characters. I had a coaching client reach out to me this week and basically tell me that she's going to get a deal from some guy. I later found out who the guy is, and this guy is a guy who's kind of well known, and the deal doesn't stack up. The deal doesn't stack up. So the point I'm making is you have to know what you're looking for to be able to say to someone that makes sense or no, it doesn't make sense. So that's the second question. Third question you asked, how do you find the deals yourself? Or should you just find the deals yourself? I believe that was the third question. This is the key.
Yeah.
If you understand how to find deals yourself, If you align yourself and learn those skills, I teach those skills, but if you learn those skills, then yes, you can go out and find deals yourself. Now, let me put it this way. If you go and find a deal for me, Oliver, you are now a middleman in between me and the person selling that deal, as long as if you're not selling it yourself. So what that means is you have to be remunerated. You need to get a check. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. That's business. That's how business works. I'll be happy to pay you a check, Oliver, 2,000, 4,000, whatever the price, a million. I'll pay you a check for finding me the deal that I want to take. But the issue is, if I use that resource, I'd be paying you to put some marketing in place, which is the first part of the sourcing blueprint. I could find that deal myself, or I could find another deal myself. And therefore, I've circumvented paying you for a deal by actually doing something to find a deal myself. And the good thing about me finding it myself, I get to find out if it's a deal myself. So I don't have to do an extra stage of due diligence on you as a property sourcer when I can spend all my time doing due diligence on these deals, which is going to do what? If I take the deal, it's going to make me wealthier. If I don't take the deal, it's going to make me wealthier. What do I mean? If I don't take the deal, the fact I've spent all of that time doing due diligence makes me better at looking at deals and scrutinizing deals and working out if deals make sense. Does all of that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so Oliver, that's your 3 questions. I'm actually going to let you give me one more, and then we're going to have to shoot because we've been giving value for quite a while on this show. But go on, what's your last question for tonight's show?
The last question, which kind of, I think was actually touched a little bit on that. Someone that is getting into this testing and this property journey that has that option of like, okay, this is what he wants to do in order to release revenues as much as possible. What could be your best advice for that strategy?
That's a great question. So your question is, what's my best advice for someone who's just starting out in property and is looking at going into property sourcing? Is that the question?
Yes.
All right, cool. So here's my answer to this. Okay. The way I'm going to answer you is I'm going to answer you by giving you the answer that I gave to someone else about something else. Okay. So this week, one of my coaching calls with one of my other coaching clients, the gentleman reached out to me. It was his 3rd ever coaching call with me, and he asked me a powerful question. So I've got a resource, a program, an audio program I created a number of years back. This was a number of months back. This program is called 101 Property Sourcing Secrets. Okay, so I took over 100 secrets I had learned in property. So it's not just about sourcing, although the title of the program is 101 Property Sourcing Secrets. It's really 101 property secrets. So I created that audio program. It's over 3 hours of content. All right, it's a very valuable program. There's a number of people who've done my coaching program and they have that resource. Now, the reason I bring that up is the gentleman jumped on a coaching call. It was his 3rd ever coaching call with me, and he says this powerful question to me. He says, Samuel, out of all of your 100, because he's just starting out, and this is why I'm using him as an example. He's just starting out. He's fresh in his property journey right at the beginning. So he says to me, Samuel, I've listened to the 101 Property Sourcing Secrets. I want to compliment you. It's an amazing resource, but I wanted to ask you a question. The question is, because I'm a beginner, I don't have the time to be thinking about 101 secrets all of the time. So what would you say are your 3 most valuable secrets? What are your 3 most valuable secrets out of the 101? So I'm going to give you my answer to him, because my answer to him is actually my answer to your question. You know, what's the real secret that I'd give? What advice would I give? What's the top advice I'd give? The top advice I'd give is get a coach, okay? But I didn't say that to him because he's got a coach. I'm already coaching him. But that's the top advice I'd give. But besides that, I'll share with you what I shared with him. I said to him, my 3 probably most powerful secrets, I think, from the 101 Sourcing Secrets resource. The first one is use multiple touches. Okay, use multiple touches. Now, use multiple touches is basically a strategy that you use to basically do marketing. So what do I mean by use multiple touches? For someone who's starting out, start doing leaflets, start doing Facebook ads, start doing landlord letter campaigns, potentially if you can, to the same people. okay, to all the same people. Why would you do that? The reason why is because you're using multiple touches. So the people that you're trying to find properties from, or the areas you're trying to find properties in, if you're sending these people Facebook ads, if you're sending these people letters through their door, if you're sending leaflets or dropping leaflets through their door, these people are being touched by you multiple times. And because they're being touched by you multiple times, they're more likely to take the step and engage you and use your resources. So that's the first thing. Use multiple touches. That's one of the secrets, very powerful secret. Now, the way we use the secret in our coaching program is different. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that. You need to have a certain level of training to understand that. But just on a very basic level, the example I've just given you is extremely helpful. So hopefully you're going to use that. Use multiple touches. The second one is smash and grab. And again, I didn't really share this with him the other day, but I'm going to share this with you because I know this is really powerful. Smash and grab. Okay, smash and grab is a very, very powerful secret. It's one of the 101 sourcing secrets, which I learned from another property sourcing guy. Okay, so this guy, he doesn't have his sourcing company anymore. He migrated out of the UK when things were good for him. He went to live somewhere else. But he taught me this principle, smash and grab. Now, if you're doing property sourcing properly, you end up with a lot of leads. So when you say a lot of leads, you end up with a lot of people who are asking you to buy their house quickly or rent their house quickly, depending on the strategy you're marketing for. So what you do in smash and grab is basically when you recognize you have a once in a lifetime deal or an opportunity that you know you're not going to get every single day, you drop everything. You drop everything. You smash everything. You drop it off of your desk and you grab that one resource. You grab that one opportunity. You grab that one deal and focus your time and energy and talent on that one deal. So smash and grab is really about prioritization. And if you're in the property sourcing space, you have to learn prioritization because great deals don't stay around long and great deals don't show up to everybody. Okay, so if you do get the opportunity to see a fantastic deal, learn the principle of smash and grab, the secret of smash and grab, drop everything else, forget focusing on everything else, the deal which you might be able to negotiate a discount or the deal where you might be able to employ a creative strategy and just basically grab onto that deal, which you can see is going to be a once in a lifetime deal. Third secret that I shared with him, which I'll share with you from the 101 sourcing secrets that I created, which I believe, again, is great advice for a beginner, okay? So I guess if you want to take it in principle form, start marketing using multiple touches. Second principle, effectively, if you want to use it that way, is learn to prioritize so you're looking at the best deals, rather than all deals. And the third thing is that the secret, basically, in the 101 sourcing secret is basically the way it's termed in the program is make your power team more valuable assets. Okay, make your power team more valuable assets. Now, again, it's another secret that's kind of extensive, so it will take a long time for me to explain it, and obviously we don't have that much time on the show. So what I'm going to do instead of that is I'm going to break it down to you with a more kind of elementary level. And what I would say to you is build a power team. Now, I created this resource. It's called the Team 10, and it says on it, discover your property power team. Team 10, discover your property power team. The reason I created that resource is a video training program. The reason I created that resource is because people need to understand that it's a power team that makes you more powerful than working on your own and as an individual. Okay, so guys, what I want you to do is hit like if you haven't hit like already, hit subscribe if you haven't hit subscribe already, become a part of our community. So Oliver, for you, they're the 3 things I will share. If you're someone who's starting out, you want to use property sourcing as a vehicle to move forward in property. First thing, start to market, and in your marketing, attempt to use multiple touches to engage your audience. Second thing, learn to prioritize, focus on the deals that are most important each and every time. And third thing, build a property power team. And then when you get more advanced, when you get a coach, when you start to understand what you're doing, make your property power team even more valuable. Oliver, has that been of value to you? Okay, we might have lost Oliver right after he asked his question. But guys, I know that's been of value. I can see in the chat already, great value here tonight. Thank you ever so much for your comments, guys. This is what we do. Now, without further ado, what I want to encourage you guys to go and do is go and watch this video right here. No money down property deals. That video is going to show you how to move forward in your property journey by helping you understand exactly what you need to be doing in order to move forward. This is Samuel Akinwin. It's been an absolutely fantastic time working with you guys through the strategy in the storm tonight. Have a great night. Happy investing.